But there are other things about money management and financial literacy and building wealth that many of us don't know or are still learning, of course. And that's what we're getting into in today's TNT Chat. All right, T, let's talk money, honey. One of our favorite topics, but we have both come a long way. And I always think, when I think of me and money, I think of that clip, and I don't know if you've seen it on Instagram, but it's Viola Davis. And she's sitting beside her husband, and she's talking about when they were early on in their relationship, and she felt like, you know, she had this secret, this big secret, and she didn't know how to tell him this secret. And at some point, the relationship is progressing, and they're falling in love, and they're going to build this life together. And she says, husband, I have to tell you something. And he says, what is it? And she says, I have bad credit. And he's like, I know you suck with money. I know you have bad credit. It's okay. We'll start building our life based on my credit, but you got to fix yourself up. And I had a very similar situation with my very money conscious husband. I was living with my parents when I met him, so of course I'm not paying rent. I don't have a mortgage. This guy's been on his own since he was a teenager, so he's very on top of, you know, making those payments. He wanted to get a house. He knows how to invest. He was on top of all this stuff, and I was going to the club. So we were thinking, okay, we're going to build a life together. But he's like, why do you have so many shoes? And what do you have in savings? And where are your, what are your investments? Investments? Like, I'm at the bar, you know, getting bottle service. So we had to have this talk. And he said, listen, money is very important to me. And it's not important to him because he needs to flex. It's important to him because for him, it equals stability. And that's something he did not have growing up. And so I had to learn real quick how to put aside money and stop spending it. And I remember when we were putting in the down payment for our first house, all I did was I stopped going out for about 7 or 8 months because the amount of money I was spending at bars was actually astronomical. And spending half a year not going out, T, I had enough to contribute to our down payment for our first house, on top of taking money out of the RRSPs, because the government allows you to do that. It was really important that we get on the same page about that, and it was important that I start to learn, and I find that now we've sort of met more in the middle. We're still not totally on the same page because he would rather save a penny than spend a penny. And I'm like, what's the point in making the penny if we're not spending the penny? Like, let's live a little. But we're definitely closer when it comes to the, you know, the financial goals and what have you. So what's been going on with you and your personal finances, and what have you learned along the way?
Everybody knows I'm devastatingly single, but I definitely had a similar conversation with someone I dated when I was in my early or late 20s, I believe it was. I dated him and he was into his finances. He said, like, I actually look forward to my payday and going through my money. And I was looking at him like, what are you talking about? He goes, do you have any savings? Do you have anything? And I go, no. And he goes, so you've worked all these years. And he goes, you basically 10 years or for 15 years, and he goes, you have nothing to show for it. Everything you buy depreciates. And I was like, yeah. So it was then and only then he got me on the phone and he introduced me to a financial guy, and I'm still with that financial guy to this day. I'm not with the guy that I was dating, but I'm with the financial guy. I learned very late in life about money. I wasn't taught it. I knew enough about myself that I could get out of control. So when I was, you know, in my late teens, like 19 and 20 and 21 and all that age where they give credit cards away, like they're just handing them to people, right? At the colleges and the universities. Mm-hmm. I knew to have enough restraint and not go that route at that time. Yeah. Because I was like, if I do this, I'm going to be like everybody else. But at the same time, I kind of regret that I didn't just do it earlier, because I ended up doing it later in life. Like I avoided all those pitfalls, and then when in my late 20s and early 30s, I ran up my credit cards. I was like going crazy, credit card, and you forget you got to pay all this was back.
Yeah.
I remember looking at my finances and I was like, oh boy, I'm in deep doo-doo. Like I owe a lot of money. So I decided to stay in, and I used to go to the movies all the time. Like I didn't tell anybody what I was doing because I was actually ashamed. People don't talk about money, but I was ashamed that I owed that much money, and I got myself, and I'm smart, you know what I mean? So how did you get yourself into that? And people have to understand, don't beat yourself up if you get yourself into debt, because people think, oh, you're not smart, you don't know what you're doing, and people get really judgmental. That's why people don't want to talk about it, but we should talk about it. Know that we're not alone. But I was embarrassed, and so I didn't go anywhere for a year. I stopped going to movies. Everybody's like, why don't you go to the movies? Why don't you go this? And I was like, I just don't want to go anymore. But really, I was trying to save money, and in that year, I was able to pay everything off, Tracy. So, I mean, our lesson is not just to stay inside, but this is the perfect time during a pandemic to start saving those pennies. I learned very late in life about how to save money and where to put my money and just how to deal with it. I had a bad relationship with money in my early 30s. I'd say late 20s, early 30s. And I finally cleaned that up. But I think it should be a course in school.
Yeah.
I think they should be teaching you this from when you were in elementary school. People would understand. Their parents don't teach them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because no one taught their parents. So that's just the thing. Like we all have to go out here walking around blind trying to learn it from each other, and then no one wants to talk about money. So then how do you learn?
Exactly. It's important for us to teach our kids about all of that instead of just going around knowing your parents don't have the money, because that's all they ever said. I don't have the money, I don't have the money, I don't have the money. It's like, well, you need to learn how to deal with money. T, as per usual, we're way over our time. So I'm going to say thank you to you. This conversation, we should do a part 2 and a 3 and a 4. It's so good. An important conversation. If you're at home, continue it with your people. We've also rounded up a list of 7 personal finance books written by Black women on our website. So head over to cityline.tv